Greetings, fellow makers. Welcome down to my shop. I'm Bill, and today on our live stream, I'm going to be casting a bunch of urethane pieces. I've got a bunch of just molds and some kits that I want to put together. So we're just going to pour resin into molds all day. But there's a lot of different molds I have here. So here's half of Mr. Handy, the other half of his body right there. We'll do this mold gets poured in a different way than some of the other parts. So I'll just go over a bunch of different casting techniques today, so you can kind of see the whole variety of it. Of course, we've got a whole molding and casting playlist, a whole series on our YouTube channel. We'll have a link to that in the description if you haven't seen that already. Go watch all of those. Those will get you started for silicone mold making and urethane casting. But today, we're just going to play with some resin and have a lot of fun. So, buckle up, because here we go. One more quick thing, too. My buddy Holly Conrad just put up a video on her channel. Again, we'll link to that in the description of this video. I helped her build a staff from World of Warcraft while I was down in LA, and she put together a build video on that. So that's worth checking out as well. Okay, now I'm going to cast some stuff. Most of the casting for a lot of these parts will be done with Smoothcast 300. It's very good general purpose urethane resin. All of these parts I want to be like a gray color, just sort of a medium gray, kind of like these pieces that were cast before. This stuff cures white, so you have to put a tint into it. So instead of casting or mixing black tint, this stuff here, the So Strong tint, instead of mixing that into each one of them, this is about 1/3 full, and I don't mind if the rest of the parts are going to be black. So I'm just going to put tint right into the bottle, and then everything I cast will be the same color. Burp. Just putting in a whole bunch of black tint. For those curious, this is mold max 30 on the silicone. Let's mix this up. All the side B is black. And when I mix it in with the side A over here, it'll look good. And I'm going to pour out just a tiny bit into this mixing cup here to get started. Let's tilt down just a hair so you can actually see that. All right. And I'm just mixing up a teeny tiny little bit. If your resin bottle gets crusty, just get yourself a giant pair of pliers. Ta-da! The same amount, just 1-to-1 by volume. Tiny bit more. Like that. I'll mix them together and everything will get brushed into this mold. And I've got these cheapo acid brushes to do the brushing, because once I use this for that, that's it. It's gonna cure with resin on it, and I'll throw it away. Side A goes in, and the clock is ticking. So let's do that. I can even use this brush to mix it, like so. All right, so a little bit of resin goes in each side, and Smoothcast 300 has a very low viscosity, so it's very watery before it starts to kick. Which is good because, again, we want to capture all that detail without catching any bubbles in it. Oh, and it's okay if I get some dribbles there, it's fine. And this, again, this is all just in the service of not getting bubbles. And what's cool is you can check, just sort of slush it around and see if there are any bubbles trapped. Like sometimes there will just be a tiny bubble on the surface that's kind of being a butt. So this piece didn't turn out as well as I would have hoped. You can see tiny bubbles on the surface right there. Now this isn't you could clean this up, but I would really rather just cast another one, because cleaning up those tiny details would be a huge pain in the butt. So there we go. We'll let this kick, and then we'll close it up and do some rotocasting. Here we can see our Smoothcast 300 has kicked enough that it's not going to travel on us when I put the two halves of the mold together. So that just locks into place there. Like that. This goes on top there, make a little sandwich thing, and then using just some rubber bands, I'll hold the mold together. Mold's put together, held together with rubber bands. I've got some Smoothcast this is 65D. This is more appropriate for rotocasting, and I've tinted it as well. So I'm going to mix these together, I'm going to pour them in the mold, then I'm going to slush cast it. So you guys get to see that fun mess that I'm absolutely going to make. Alright, resin cured, or not cured, but mixed, pouring it into the mold. And then we do the slush cast dance. Because I'm going to slush this over the trash can in case it spills. And then I just do this thing. I just rotate it around. I did put a lip in there so that hopefully it catches a lot of that resin before it spills. But sometimes I'm not so lucky. So yeah, I just do this for a while. This is when I'm like, hey, wouldn't it be great if I finally invested in a rotocasting machine? So I just keep rotocasting this until the resin sets up about 5 minutes or so, and then I'll pour in another layer and do it again. And I think for this one, three should be pretty good. So I'll tell you what, I will do that, and then I'll demold this thing. I won't make you guys sit through any more of me doing this. So I'll see you on the other side. It's been about, I don't know, half an hour or so on Mr. Handy, so I'm going to demold him. We just take the, oh, that's broken. Just take all of our rubber bands off. Oop, there we go. Top off. And then we just pop open the mold. There's no, I mean, carefully. There's no real trick to it, though. You just carefully peel everything apart. Ta-da! So now the mold, the hollow mold, good to go. Still nice and warm. And then we can peel apart the other side. Like that. Boop. There you go. Now you kind of get an idea for what was going on inside the mold while we were slush casting it. You can see this was the pouring spout, and that's where resin started coming out as I was rotocasting it, but that created this nice lip on the inside. This will all be removed here, and then that's where his little tailpipe goes. Once I trim that away. There was a little bit of flashing along the seam here, but it's a very tiny bit. I can even just remove it by hand. Sand that down perfectly smooth. So this was the really good casting that we just did, right there. And then this is the one with some bubbles in it. You can see those bubbles. Not as favorite. This one we took our time and brushed in that layer, and it looks really nice. So there you go. That's how I rotocast that thing. Time to make some more pieces. Here we go. This is Smoothcast 325. It cures clear. And I'm going to mix it up and pour it into Mr. Handy's eye sockets. I also have just another mold because I know I have some extra resin. So those will all go in there. This is to make clear lenses. So that's the mold. The resin will get poured in there to make sure that it cures nice and clear. I'm going to throw it in the pressure pot. So it's all going to happen at once. So everyone hold on to their butts. Okay, here we go. Mix it in. And I want to act quickly so that this stuff doesn't kick before the bubbles get collapsed by the pressure pot. I also do want to make sure, though, that it is very, very well mixed. Pour a little bit in each little eye. And there's a line, it's hard to see, but there is a line on the mold where I fill it up to. And there's a ton of this left over, so that goes in this extra mold there. Like that. Carefully setting the molds in there. They are full of resin. Carefully setting that down in there. Like that. Good to go. Top goes on. Like that. Clamp it down. Like so. Make sure that it's really tight. Like that. Like that. Alright, this is closed. I'm going to put the air on. So. And then let in the air. And until the pressure gets to about 40 is pretty good. And that's my air compressor turning on. There we go. It's at 40. And now we just let it cure. Good job, Jeff. It has been about half an hour with our clear pieces in the pressure pot there. They should be fine to come out of there. It's definitely cured enough that the bubbles aren't going to expand again. So I slowly let the air out, and it's going to be loud. Oh, like that. And also, I'm going to cover it so it doesn't blast my ceiling and release all the dust up there. So this might get a little loud. So actually, I will mute it so that you guys don't get hear all that. Alright, that's not too loud. There we go. So we just let all the pressure out. Wait till it's done doing its thing, and then we can unscrew those and remove our part. So there we go. All good. Unscrew the thing. Can take this off. We can pull our parts out like that. And then we can inspect them. There are our clear parts. This is, again, the Smoothcast 325, and they are pretty clear. Kind of clear. And they are rigid enough to come out of the mold, it looks like. And there you go. There is one of Mr. Handy's lenses. There's a little bit of an overhang from the meniscus. I'll trim that a little bit and then pop these right into his eyes. Like that. And then this was the extra one that we cast, because we had a bunch of extra resin. This is like a gauge or something that I just threw in silicone. So there you go. There's like, if I need a gauge, it's got a little lip on it. I could even paint the outside silver, and then the inside would be clear. I could just put like a printed, I don't know, clock or something in there. But this is just an extra part. I'll throw it in my pile of extra parts that keeps getting bigger. But there you go. That is pressure casting tiny clear pieces for Mr. Handy's eyeballs. There you go. So a different one of many different types of casting that I do every so often. For my next trick, let's fix this again. So I'm also casting some parts for Ray's blaster because I gave all of mine away and I want one. These little security screw heads have these tiny little dimples in there, and they're notoriously tricky to get resin in there. They'll frequently have a little bubble. So before I pour resin in here, I'm going to mix up just a little bit of the Smoothcast 300 and then use this eyedropper to put it in there, and then use this all to sort of poke the bubbles out. So I'm going to do that on all these screw heads. So I've got, let's use my little example here. I've got an eyedropper, and I just pick up a tiny bit of resin and just drop it on that screw head and on that screw head like that. And I'll try and work quickly here. And I really hope I can get you guys to see this. Yes. So in that screw head, there's a bubble. There, you can see that. And then what I want to do is try and pop that bubble, and this is my lot in life now. I need to carefully poke resin out of a thing. Pressure casting helps, but this way I can look real close and know that it's good. That looks pretty good, and now I can just pour resin in there. Good to go. I got it now. I'll do that with the rest of these. Now that the screw heads have cured a little bit, I'm going to pour the rest of the mold. So I'm just going to mix up some more Smoothcast 300 here and pour it and fill up the rest of the mold. And that way, now I can be sure those screw heads are going to have perfect detail. There's an overhang in that side piece there, so I will pour and fill that up to make sure I don't get any bubbles in it, like that. So now I know it's good, and then I will fill it the rest of the way like that. And that's just, I know I have to do that with this particular mold because I designed it poorly, or that's just kind of how that part works. This one's easy. I just fill it up like this. Just like that. A little bit more resin. A little bit more. Good to go. Now all I have to do is let these cure, pop them out of the mold, and they should be perfect. Here are the little pieces for raised blaster that I cast, and they're fully cured now, so I can take them out of the mold. Just peel back the silicone a little bit, carefully remove the part, and that is pretty much perfect. This part on the bottom here will have to be cut off. I'll just use a bandsaw to do that. We can see those little parts in there are perfectly filled in. So the one on the left there did not fill in. There's a tiny bubble in there, but the one on the right, the one we just did, looks good. There are the three different things that we did today. We did some pressure casting of these little lenses. This was Smooth Cast 325 in the pressure pot. Those came out really great. I'm really happy with those. This is our rotocasting project. This was again for Mr. Handy. So this was slush cast. It's hollow, it's nice and lightweight, and we saved a bunch of resin, and we got all this wonderful nice detail in the casting there. And then the third thing we did today was just some precise normal dump molds, where I brushed a little bit of resin and poked it into these really fine details right there to make sure that I captured all the detail that I wanted in these little parts. So there are those. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching our videos. If you haven't already, head on over to the YouTube channel, give it a subscribe. We have new videos every single week. And of course, if you want to catch these live when we do them, usually on Tuesdays at noon Pacific, then head on over to twitch.tv/punishedprops. Give us a follow over there. We've got the chat going right now. I see all of a bunch of regular people just hanging out. We talk about prop making, talk about the projects that we're working on while we do these things live. Hopefully you learned a couple things about casting resin. Again, we've got a whole video series on molding and casting. We'll have a link to that in the description. Check that out. And then give this stuff a try for yourself. Once you see kind of how it's done, it's not that difficult. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you guys all in the next live stream.